Zog the Heilige Gemara. Mitzvah Yom Tov Sukkos. Tov Shin Pei Gimel. Zog the Heilige Gemara, right on the top of the helmet of the Kuv Dalar Amid Beis Kesubos. Hahu Yaima, the Noch Nafshi the Rebbe, the day that Rebbe was nifter, goes through Rabbanan Tanisa. Before he died, they were goyzer atainis. People were davening that he should have a refuah. But Amri, and they made an announcement. Kol man de Omar Noch Nafshi the Rebbe, whoever will say that Rebbe was nifter, Yidaker Becherev, will be stabbed with a sword. And the Meforshim tell us that they wanted that even if Chas Shalom Rebbe would be nifter, that he would come back, he would kiss a mason. But people aren't going to daven the same way once they know that Rebbe was nifter. And because of that, they didn't want anybody to tell anybody if they knew that Rebbe was nifter. Slika Amse, the Rebbe Le'eger, the Oma, the housekeeper of Rebbe, went up to the roof. Amr, and she said, El Yoinim Mevakshim es Rebbe. Shemayim wants Rebbe, they want him in Shemayim. But us down here in the world, we also want Rebbe. The Tachtoinim, we should win, and we should be zoiche to have more of Rebbe. Even the Chazoi kamezimni the ayel of Esakise, the Cholach Tzilin, when she saw how many times Rebbe had to go in and out of the washroom, and every time he went to the washroom, he had to take off his tefillin. And we know that tzaddikim died because of chayil ma'ayim, and Rebbe was no different, and therefore he was taking off his tefillin. And then umanachu, then he would put it back on, become mitzvah, and he would have pain. What type of pain did he have? Not because the stomach was hurting him. Rashi says the pain was lach loy tzulaniach. The pain was taking off tefillin. So tveiket Rebbe, every time he had to take off his tefillin, he so much wanted to be wearing his tefillin b'kedusha, and that pain of him having to take off his tefillin was just too much. Amr, she said, it's hard to see Rebbe in such pain. Better the El Yoinim should win. Is someone allowed to daven that someone should be nifter? So Rabbi Kiveger is mitzayin a run in the Dorim Daf Mem, and we're going to learn soon. And the Ran says sometimes if someone is beyond hope and he's in pain, you're allowed to daven Rachman Litzlon that this person should be nifter and be relieved of his terrible pain. And that's what she davened for. So Zok to Gemara, it didn't matter if she davened for Rebbe to die because nobody was going to listen to her. So what happened? The Rabbanan did not stop begging for Achmanis. And she wanted to stop them so that Rebbe would be nifter and would finally be freed of his pain. Shakla Kuza, she took a little jug. Shadjami Igra, she threw it off the roof and it made a crash. The Igla Ira. And when it made the crash down, everybody was stunned for a moment. Ishtiku Mirachmi. For a moment they stopped davening. And in that moment, the Nachnachshi the Rebbe. Amr le Rabbanan le Bar Kapara. The Rabbanan told Bar Kapara, Zil Ayin Ozal. Zil Ayin, go check up on Rebbe, see how he's doing. Ozal Ashkechei de Nachnafshe. Bar Kapara saw Rachman Litzlon, they lost Rebbe. Kari le Levusha, he tore him, he nice tefillah. V'hadri le Kari lachayri. But he put his tear behind, so when he comes back, people won't see it. Because if people see it, it's mamish like he's announcing that Rebbe died, and they said Yidaker. He didn't want to be Yidaker Becher. Pazak Ba'amar, when he came back, he spoke Burmiza. He said, Erelim, the Melachim in Shemayim, Umitzukim, and the Tzadikim that are the foundations of the world, Achzu Ba'ar HaKodesh. They're both grabbing onto the Aron Kodesh, pulling. The Melachim are pulling the Aron up, and the Tachtonim, the Tzadikim are pulling the Aron down to keep Rebbe. Nitzchu Erelim B'Samatzukim, and the Melachim won. V'noshva Aron HaKodesh, and the Aron HaKodesh was captured. Amrulay, so they responded to his comment. Noch Nafshe, do you mean to say that Rebbe died? Amrulay, he said, no, Atun Kamrisi, that's what you said. But I didn't say a thing. Because he didn't want to be over the Yidaka Becher. B'shas P'tirato Shal Rebbe, when Rebbe was dying, Zokav Eser Etzba Isuf Klapi Maila. He held his 10 fingers up. Amar, he said, Rebbeinu Shaloylam, Galui v'yadu lefanecha. You know, the Agati be'etzer etzbo isai be'toira. I used all my 10 fingers in Torah. So I know you have a grubber finger when you learn. Could be you have a pointer also. And maybe you have all your 5 fingers when you're clearing. But every finger he used to learn Torah. I didn't even have a know from a tiny little finger. And Rashi gives it to understand a little deeper. And I hope I understand what Rashi is saying. Rashi says, the first skinny line in Rashi, never mind, I didn't come have enough from Moishris. Even from things that I was miyageh for, I didn't allow myself to have enough from. Everything was in Gansen, l'shem Kamai. So therefore, David Omar, he said, Rebbeinu Shaloylam, Goli v'yadu l'fanecha sheyagati be'esetz bo inside b'torah v'lo ne'nesef filu b'etpek'tana. Yirotei mil'fanecha, it should be the Ratzon HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Sheyehi shalom b'menuchati. I should rest in peace. Yodz da b'atkel v'amra, Yovei shalom, peace should come. Yonuchu al mishkavosim, they should rest peacefully on their beds, on their mishkavos. Now, if the Baskoil was talking to Rebbe, what's the mishkavosim, the plural? Who else is there? Al mishkavecha mibayil. Dr. Gemara Misayeh Alei, to write to Reb Chia that there were many tzaddikim that needed menucha. Misayeh Alei, Reb Chia bagam dom, Reb Chia bagam dom, Reb Yosy ben Shol. The Shos tzaddik nifter min ha'olam. When that tzaddik is nifter from the world. The Malach announced to the Rebbeinu Shaloylam, and they say as follows: Rebbeinu Shaloylam, Tzaddik ploni ba, this Tzaddik is coming. Omer lahem, the Rebbeinu Shaloylam tells them, Yavoyu Tzaddikim, all the Tzaddikim in Gan Eden should come. The Yetu L'Krotoi, they should go on kegen the Tzaddik that's arriving to greet him, to welcome him. The Oimrim Loi, and they should tell him, Yavoy v'shalom, come in peace, Yonuchu al mishkavoisam. And all together, once you're mekabel upon the tzaddik, you can all go back to rest. So the new guest, the new arrival will be Yonuchu al mishkavoy, but all the tzaddikim that have to go be mekabel upon them, they can also go back to rest on their mishkavois. That's why it's a loshon of plural. Omar Rabbi Lozer, b'shah tzaddik nifter min ha'olam. When that tzaddik is nifter from the world. 3 separate groups of Malachi Asharis go to greet the tzaddik. One says, Boy b'shalom, come in peace. And the Mefarshim tell us that means you're going to go to Gan Eden. Come to peace, come to Gan Eden. Go straight. You won't even have to stop by the klippos and maybe suffer from any type of Tsar, you'll go straight to Gan Eden. The Achas Meres lawyer, the third part of Malachim will tell him, Yovoy Shalom Yonucha Mishkavoitzam, meaning you won't even have Chibut Kever, the group in the Kever will also be the Menucha. But the Shah Rosh never min Oilam, Shalosh Kidoy Shal Malachi Chavala Yotzis L'Krosei. 3 groups of Malachi Chavala go. Achas Meres Ein Shalom, one tells them Ein Shalom, means Ein Shalom Amar Lashem L'Rishoyim, there won't be peace for Rishoyim, which means he's going to go to Gehenna. You're going to lie in pain, meaning the gupta is going to have chibut kever. Go with the arelim, meaning you're going to have tsar even by the klippas when you're going to your mokum. Exactly what that means, I don't understand. But I'll call upon him. The Rosh is not going to have it very good. Now we're going back to standard Kesubos de halachas. Kolzman she beveis avia. When as long as the almana is in her father's household, so she's not staying in her parents in her husband's household. She's moving back to her father's household. Goive Kesubos. Lo'olam. No matter how many years pass, you can always come back and ask for a ksuba. Kolzman she beveis baila. But if she's beveis baila, then goyve ksubasa ad esrim v'chamei shonim. Then she could only be goyve ksuba if she's living in the estate. Then she only could ask for ksuba for 25 years. But after 25 years, she could no longer claim her ksuba. Why? Zok the Mishnah sheyesh b'chafei shanim shetasa toiva keneged ksubasa. Because when a woman lives in her late husband's household, she doesn't just take the bare minimum that she needs from his highness. If an ani stands by the door, she's going to give him something. If someone needs something, she's going to cook a little extra. So kum dechai, she's going to constantly be taking little by little over and above what her mezainos entitle her to. And after 25 years, we'll say that she took enough extra that now her whole ksuba is paid off. Divi Reb Meir, those are the words of Reb Meir, Sha'amar Mishum, Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, who said in the name of Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. And the Chachamim say, as long as she's in the house of her husband, there's no 25-year limit. Forever she could be Goyvik Suba. But if she's living in her father's household, then you say Goyvik Suba she could mon Suba until 25 years. But after that, she could no longer mon. And the Gemara is going to tell us, you know why? Because if after 25 years she hasn't asked for a Suba, she must have already been moichel. When she's living in the house of her husband, why isn't she moichel after 25 years? Her not asking for it is not a right that she's moichel. Because here she's living in their home with the assignment, and they're taking care of her. It's very uncomfortable at that point in that situation to make a demand of a ksuba. So the fact that she didn't demand the ksuba doesn't show that she's moichel. However, when she's living in her father's household, there she wouldn't start them on her ksuba. And if for 25 years she didn't on her ksuba, it's a simon that she was moichel. Mesa, what if she dies? Yoshel mazkirin ksuba sad esem v'chamishon. They all have 25 years. And there's a shaila, does the clock start ticking again when she dies, or their clock started ticking right when he died, but right when the husband died, and they have to be moicha and ask for the ksuba within 25 years. Amalei Abai Reb Yosef. Abai asked Reb Yosef, Aniyah should be Yisrael, a poor woman who she takes maybe a little bit at a time extra. We say on Esrim v'chamei, it takes 25 years for her to have her ksuba paid off. Umartabas Baitus and the wealthiest woman in the world as well on Esrim v'chamei. Now that doesn't make sense, because how could you say that the poor woman who doesn't use much will use up her ksuba in 25 years, and the same thing for the wealthiest woman? In other words, the Mishnah gave a shear of 25 years. It doesn't say it makes a difference between if the woman's wealthy or not. Omar Lei, Rabbi Yosef answered, of course not. Of course it shouldn't make a difference. Depending on how wealthy this family is, that would also determine how big her ksuba is. So for Shteitzer, a woman who's wealthy has a much bigger ksuba, and therefore the likelihood is that they would have been much more money. So even though she's giving more money away, nevertheless her ksuba is big. Now that we're coming to the end of the Masechta of Kesubos, we had this term lafum gam l'shifna earlier in the Masechta when the Gemara was talking about Nakdim ben Gurion, who was one of the wealthy people of Yerushalayim. The Gemara says he lost his money, even though he gave tzedakah. Why? Because according to his wealth, he didn't give enough tzedakah, and the Gemara used the lashon over there as well. Lafum gam l'shifna. Ibaylu. So the Gemara clears his title. The Reb Meir ma'ushit ishalosh. According to Reb Meir, that shot is that over the years she's using up her ksuba. Well, what happens if it's not 25 years that passed by? What if 15 years passed by, and then she demands her ksuba? Can you deduct something from her ksuba because she was continuing to deplete her ksuba? Or you'd say all or nothing. Up until 25 years, she's entitled to her entire ksuba, and after 25 years, she's not entitled to any ksuba at all. And the Gemara answers what take. The Mai said we're going to pass like the Chacham anyway, so it won't be Nageya what Allah is according to Reb Meir. The Chachamim calls ma the Tali Mechila. As long as she's living by the estate, she's not comfortable asking for a ksuba, so therefore there's never a limit to the time that she could demand her ksuba. Amalei Abai Reb Yosef. What happens? We're saying after 25 years, she's to write that she was moichel ksuba. So what happens if we're right at the end of the 25 years? If she comes right before Shkia, then she can still collect because the 25 years are not up. La'akashki is a comma, but if she only shows up after shkia, which could be a mere minute later, are you saying loy gavi? Vahi port achilta? Are you saying like in that minute is the difference between a ksuba and not ksuba? In that minute she was Michael. Amar lay, Rabbi Yosef answered in. That's exactly how it is. Because when the Chacham give shiurim, they're very precise and they stick. Call me this Chacham Keni. You find that all the time when the Chacham give a shiur. For instance, Bar Bam saw toivel. A person could be toivel in 40 saw. Bar Bam saw chatzar kortov. But if we're missing just a little bit of water, ain't yochalit well. You can't toivel. So that's the cutoff. Amar Bidu Amarav. Hey, Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi Lufnei Rabbi. Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi said in Eidos in front of Rabbi. So Amar Mishamav, who said in the name of his father, where do we say that if 25 years passed by and she didn't demand her ksuba, we assume that she was Michael and therefore she could no longer demand her ksuba? That's if she wasn't still holding on to her star ksuba. If she can still show us her star ksuba, then goyve ksuba salayla. Then she's never Michael, because if she was Michael, she would have given up her star ksuba. The fact that she's still holding on to it is a clear indicator that she wasn't Michael. Taishma speaks out, if you remember, we learned a while back that a woman can be goyver ksuba even without the star ksuba. With a get, she can be goyver the mana umasayim of her ksuba, or with aidin that her husband died. And therefore, Taishma learns that the ksuba that we're talking about, meaning her get, if she's still holding on to her get, that's a clear sign that she was not Michael or ksuba and she intends to collect it. Rabbi Lezer says, even if she has her star ksuba, it's still not a right that she wasn't Michael, and if 25 years passed by and she didn't demand the collection for her ksuba, then we say she is going to lose her ksuba. Matziv Reb Sheshes. Reb Sheshes had a kasha. Chayiv can be goyve even though he left it for many, many years. Even if 25 years pass and the Malva never collected from the loiva, and now 25 years later the Malva goes to the loiva and says pay up, he could still pay up and no one's going to say that he was Michael. So let's analyze the exact case of a Chayiv coming to collect after 25 years. If he doesn't have a star, then my Gavi, he can't collect. So obviously this whole discussion is even though he has a star, which would allow him to collect, but after 25 years, he can still collect. Well, the Nugget star, obviously he's holding a star. And we can be medayik. Ubalchoiv hu delav barachuyu. Abalchoiv will say, he can collect after 25 years with his star. Because he's not going to be Michael. Why should he be Michael? He's out money. He's entitled to get it back. Ha'almana, an-almana, achilta. He would be Michael, even though she had a star. Because otherwise, Rav Sheshes wouldn't have said, Ba'choiv goyv shloi b'askar. Rav Sheshes could have said, Ba'choiv and an alman is goyv shloi b'askar. Elamai, even though she's holding on to her star ksuba, similar to a Ba'choiv holding on to her star choiv, after 25 years, we say that by ksuba she's Michael. So you have a raya that the ksuba does not affect her mechila. So it's a kasha on what we quoted from Rabbi Shmuel Bar Yossi before. No, who might you can ask he asked the kasha and he answered the kasha. The case of the Ba'choiv, where we say he could money even after 25 years, was without a star. So therefore you don't have any right to ksuba. How could a Ba'choiv collect a choiv if he doesn't have a star? It's kishachayiv moida. The loiber was moida that I borrowed the money. But it's 25 years since I borrowed the money, and maybe the mal was Michael, Kamashulon, the mal was not Michael. But it could only collect without a star because the loiva agreed that the choiv existed. Dr. Gemara V'Amar Abeloi, Steinin Grusha. Abeloi said we learned that Grusha Reika B'Choiv. Grusha, unlike an almana, is like a B'Choiv, and she can collect her ksuba forever, even after 25 years. She's not Michael. Let's see, how is it that a Grusha can collect her ksuba? If she doesn't have her ksuba, then my gavi, with what document will she collect? Again, this is referring to her get. Elo lav Nikita ksuba, she must be holding on to this document. And we say, Grusha he the lav basachuluhi. Only a Grusha won't be Michael the ksuba. Almana, but an almana achilta, she would be Michael the ksuba. So once again, you have a raya that an almana, even if she's holding on to the ksuba, she is still Michael. So the Gemara Hakanami Kishachayev Moida. No, we're speaking where the Grusha was not holding on to her ksuba. But it's speaking in a case where her ex is minding that there's a chiyuv ksuba. The discussion really is, was she meichel? Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. Tani Rav Yehuda bar Kaza. Ramasnis in the Vei bar Kaza. Rav Yehuda bar Kaza learned in the Mishnah of Vei bar Kaza. Hama ksubata. What if she came to demand her ksuba? So let's turn over onto Chuf Dalid Amid Beis. What if she came to demand her ksuba? Harehi kivatchila. It resets the clock. So if in the middle of the 25 years she demanded her ksuba and for some reason it wasn't paid up, it resets the clock, and now she has another 25 years. But if she has a ksuba in her hand, forever and ever, she could want a ksuba, which supports what we said from Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yosy. Shalach le Rav Nachman bar Rav Chisda le Rav Nachman bar Yaakov. Rav Nachman bar Chisda sent to Rav Nachman bar Yaakov the following shaila, which is the shaila that we've been discussing until now. Yilam Deini Rabbeinu, Rebbe teach us, Kishashtar Ksuba Yochim Mitachas Yodam Achloikis, the Machloikis in our Mishnah, when she's moichel, or when she uses a ksuba, is that speaking when she's holding the shtar chayv, the ksuba in her hand? Like you should ain't shtar ksuba yochim mitachas. That's question number one that we have. Question number two that we have is Valacha Kedivrami. Who do we pass on, like the Chachamim or the first sheet in the Mishnah? Zokimar Shalach Lei sent them back. B'she'ein shtar ksuba yochim mitachas yoda machlokes. The machlokes is only if she doesn't have her shtar ksuba. Just like Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yosy said. She's still holding on to her ksuba. That's a clear sign that she was not moichel. And the halacha of the chachamim that the shaila here is the shaila of mechila, and only when she's in her father's household is it a right that she's moichel. But if she's living in the household of the Yosayim in the estate, then avada, we never have a time to say she was moichel and she can be goiva or ksuba forever. This discussion that the Mishnah has, if she's moichel or if she's not moichel, that's only the base ksuba, the ksuba of the takanas chacham. But what if there was the discussion? Some ksubas include much more money that the husband promised the wife, and those are just gifts. Yes, those she has. So we say that the mechila only applies to the t'nai ksuba. It will not apply to the gifts. A gift is a gift. Rashi says specifically, we don't consider that the ksuba, that's matan. Rabbi Vo said, no, if we say she's moichel the ksuba, the toisvus she doesn't get either. The Tanai ksuba can ksuba dami. The Tanai of a ksuba is like a ksuba. And therefore, anything that's added on to the ksuba, such as the toisvus, will be subject to the same rules. And if after 25 years, while living at her parents' household, she didn't ask for a collection of her ksuba, it's a simon that she was moichel everything. Itmar nami amar baba amar huna amar rab lashonu elamon messiah al toisvus yeshla. So Rababa in the name of Huna Rav says that she does get toifus. But Amalei Rababa or Huna Amar Rav, Hachi Amar Lei. Did he really say that? Is that really what Rav said? So the question is, when Rababa asked Rav Huna, did Rav really say that? Did he mean to say, did Rav really say it because I disagree with it? Or did Rav really say it? And wow. So Amalei Ishtikon Kamer, do you mean to say, did Rav say it because you disagree with it? And I shouldn't say it? Or is shakin comer, or I want to drink up his delicious words. I mean ishtikon meaning that I don't believe Rav said it, because I hold not like that. And I hold that if he was moichel, or she was moichel the ksuba, after 25 years, she's moichel the toitus ksuba as well. And now we have a fascinating story. The mother-in-law of Reb Chia, which Reb Chia Aricha, the tall Reb Chia. The tall Reb Chia had a mother-in-law. And it turns out that this mother-in-law was also her sister-in-law, Intis Achva Havoy. This mother-in-law was the wife of his brother, of Achia's brother, and his brother died. And she was almana living in her father's house. So let's see how it's possible to have somebody who is your mother-in-law as well as your sister-in-law. So some Rishonim say, not Rashi, some Rishonim say, is that very, very simple. Rab Chia Aricha married his brother's daughter. You're allowed to marry your niece. So if Rab Chia Aricha married his brother's daughter, come to Chayz, that his brother's wife is now his mother. That's what some Rishonim learn. Rashi learns a little bit different. We look at Rashi. Rashi says, "Intis achoi havoi." Rashi says, "Umeis beloy badu." He learns that Rabbi Achai died without children. So let's think a second. So clearly, he's not learning, like I said a minute ago, that Rabbi Chia Aricha married his brother's daughter, because then he would have had children. So let's go back a second. If he married his brother's daughter, why is he now the person who was Yerush to his estate? Either he was probably Yerush because his wife was Yerush to his estate, and he was Yerush to his wife. Rashi has a different case, where Umeis B'Leivanim, meaning that his brother died without children. So how's the possible that Reb Chia Aricha married this woman's daughter if this woman was married to his brother and there were no children? Because it must be that this mother, this wife of Reb Chia's brother, must have been married before. And she had a daughter from an earlier marriage. So Reb Chia Aricha married this daughter from an earlier marriage. And then Reb Chia's brother married this woman. And then this woman died without children. So since his brother died without children, Reb Chia Aricha directly yashin his brother. Whatever the case is, Reb Chia is the one who owns the estate. He's the Yerush of the estate. And the estate owes his sister-in-law, who's also his mother-in-law, he owes her mizonos. So Reb Chia Aricha intis akvo havoi, she was his mother-in-law, the almana beveis avi havoi. And she lost her husband, and she's taking mizonos off of the estate, which was controlled by Reb Chia Aricha. V'zana etzrim v'chamesh shanim b'vei nosha. And he gave her mizonos for 25 years, living in her father's house. L'soif Amr lehavli mizoni. After 25 years, she said, "Keep it coming." Amr lo, he told her, "I'm sorry, my dear mother-in-law, less lach mizoni. You're no longer entitled to mizonos. 25 years have passed. Havli ksuba. So at least give him my ksuba." Amr lo told her, "Lo mizoni islach, v'lo ksuba islach. You're not entitled to anything because it's 25 years and you didn't ask for your ksuba, so you lost everything." So she took her son-in-law to the Torah, to Rabbi Bar Shila, demanding that he give her mizonos or ksuba. Amr lei. So Rabbi Bar Shila said, "Emali, easy. Tell me, my dear child, gufa de uvda hechiyav. Tell me exactly what happened over here." Again, we're getting towards the end of the Masechta. So this is like a little bit of an interesting type of comment. Emily, easy, gufa dov de hechiava. We had this two other times in this Heilig Masechta, and both times there was Mar Ukva who said it. One was with the story with Rav Anan and Rav Huna, where Rav Anan sent a message to Rav Huna, my buddy, and he asked him some type of shaila, and Rav Huna was very upset, and Rav Huna sent back a sharp message to Rav Anan, which Rav Anan didn't understand, and he went to Mar Ukva and asked Mar Ukva, "Why did Rav Huna send me this unusual message, and what does he mean by it?" So Rav Mar Ukva told him, "Ei mali easy gufa de uvda hechiava. Tell me exactly what happened, so I can help decipher what it was about." And there was a second case, maybe a 10 block later, where it was also Mar Ukva, and it just slipped my mind now what it was referring to. It slipped my mind what exactly the sugi it was, but it was Mar Ukva again. Amr lei. So he told the Bezdin, "Zanisa eshim v'chamishonim b'vei nosha." I gave my mother-in-law, I gave her 25 years of mizonos. V'chayin amar, I swear on your life. Reb Chia Aricha said, "The bikaspoi am toila." Every day I gave her great respect and I brought her mizonos. Ooh, now he put his foot in his mouth. Amalei Rabbi said, "Oh, now you put your foot in your mouth. Now you cannot say that after 25 years she's moichel de ksuba, because time of my Amar Rabbanan calls manchi bebeis baila gleiv ksuba salaylam." Why do we say that if she's bebeis baila, it's never a right that she's moichel just because she didn't ask for a ksuba? Damrinon mishum ki sufa hu deloy tova. It's because here she's living with the mercy and the courtesy of the assignment, he doesn't want to ask demand their ksuba. It's uncomfortable. Hakanami, since you showed her such respect by bringing her everyday mezainos, that's just as if she was living in your household, and she would also be uncomfortable under such a situation to demand the ksuba. So Rabbi ruled with her at first, and he said, you now must give her mezainos, you must give her ksuba, you must give her everything. Lo yashka. Rabbi Chia didn't listen. He held he didn't have to give. So she went to Rabbi, and Rabbi needed to allow her to seize the assets of her late husband to collect her mezainos, to collect her ksuba. So Kazav lo adrachta anichse. Rabbi wrote a star. The way it works when one has to seize someone's property, the first step is they write on the drachta, which says this woman now has a right to liquidate the properties of the man who's liable to her. And then also the kamei de Rava. So he came to Rava. So I guess from Chia came to Rava. Amalei kazimar hechidanon. Look how he paskin that now I have to pay her ksuba. Amar lei, Rava said, Shaper Donach, I think the Rabbi Paskin's right. You owe her the ksuba. Amar lei, so she told Rava, if you agree with this psak, Ihachi leza lahadr li pere deminahu yoima adoidna. The drachta, which gave me the right to seize the assets of my late husband, was already dated a long time ago. And only now we're coming to you, Rava. So not only do I want the properties as of today, anything that these properties produced from the date that I had a right to seize them, from the date of the adrachta, I want him to pay me as well, because I lost all those payers. Amar lo, so Rabbi said, okay, fine, you have a good time there. Let me see your adrachta. I have to analyze it. Actually, adrachta, I want to see it. Rabbi saw that Rabbi made a major mistake in the writing of the adrachta. It didn't say in the adrachta, I know the nechasim elu the misneinon, that these are the nechasim of the nifter. In other words, this adrachta was written on all of Reb Chia Aricha's properties. But Reb Chia Aricha had many properties that were his own, that weren't part of the estate of his brother, and were therefore not liable to pay the ksuba. Yet that adrachta was written on all of Reb Chia's assets. That means it's a faulty, mistaken, and therefore disqualified adrachta. Amar lo, so Rava told this woman, I can't collect for you, because adrachta lav shaper ksiva. Your adrachta is not written properly, not worth the paper it's written on. Amar le, so she said, you know what, forget my adrachta, throw it in the garbage. I'll make believe I don't even have an adrachta. Pays la adrachta, but ishkol miyoyma deshlimi yoyme achrasta adhasta. Even if I didn't have an adrachta, even if I didn't tell you how to have an adrachta, well, after the adrachta, they have to, if they identify any properties to be sold, they have to publicize them so that there's a public tender on it, so that we make sure that they're sold for the right amount. So even if I didn't have an adrachta, you, Rava, hold that 30 days after the adrachta is written, that's when the valuation came back. So at least from there, allow me to collect. Amr La, he told her, I'm sorry, it won't work. When would I say that we can lean on the adrachta but not collect from the date of the adrachta? That's if it wasn't a mistaken adrachta. But when the adrachta wasn't written properly, less lanba, then it has no validity and you don't have a right to collect anything. Amr Le, but she told him, you yourself, Rava, holds that achrai is tos sefer. If by mistake the sefer forgot to write achrayis in a mechira and a choiv, we say it was just omitted, but avada, the transaction includes achrayis. So here too, there's a mistake in the adrachta. Say it's good anyway. Rava said, no, that's not how it works. Here you can't say tos sefer. When something was omitted, yeah, we'll say it was tos sefer. But if something is written wrongly, that's not tos sefer. That's a wrong assumption, a wrongly written lien document. The Rabbi Bar Shila made a mistake. He wrote adrachta wrong. How did he make such a mistake? Mikara who sober, Hani v'Hani Didei. At the beginning, he held all of these assets, even those that didn't come from Abchia's brother, belong to Abchia. So what's the difference? Which ones you take? A property is a property. Mali Mahani, Mali Mahani. And that's why Rabbi wasn't medayik to write the drachta property. However, Veloy, that's not correct. It makes a huge difference. And only the properties identified as the properties that belong to the nifter should be included in the drachta. You know why? Because something could happen that would make Bezin look very bad. Because Zimnin the Ozlo Umashapkalu, imagine if they would have given her a property that she was not entitled to, one of her brother-in-law's properties, or her son-in-law. And Udabayla Mixavi. Now the Reb Chia, who's holding on to a property that really is the property that should have went to the Almana, he's not going to put much effort into it to improve it and to cultivate it because he knows it really belongs to her. So he's going to let it deteriorate. Meanwhile, the field that she took from him, she thinks it serves permanently, and she's going to give it her all and make it wonderful. And then a couple of years later, he might come back and tell her, well, Amar La, Shkil Didach, you know what, you take your property, and give me back my property. And then you imagine what the optics are going to be, that the Bezdin allows such a thing to happen, for this wealthy landowner to go to this poor almana and seize a beautiful property and give her instead some rundown property. The optics look terrible. It'll look bad for Bezdin. Therefore, in the drachta has to be written properly only on the specific assets that are liable to pay for a ksuba. And Rava told this woman, since the drachta wasn't written properly, I will not collect for you. Baruch Hashem, we were zoicha to finish this parak. This is the 12th parak we were zoicha to finish. The Rebbeinu Shem should help us. That just like we finished this parak, we should finish many more parakim. And B'ezras Hashem, we're going to finish the Masechtas shortly. We'll go on to more Masechtas, and we should continue to steig. B'linei der B'ezras Hashem, hadin aloch hanoisei, hadin aloch hanoisei, hadin aloch hanoisei. A good tavach, everybody, and I get in winter.
Koyach. Thank you very much.
Yosy,
I didn't have a chance to set up the room this evening.
So no problem. I'll take care of it tomorrow.
Okay, just to give you the heads up, because it could be in the other room. I don't know if they opened the divider or not.